Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hello, MotoAmerica fans. This is Paul Carruthers, and this is the weekly MotoAmerica podcast, Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. As I mentioned, on the Carruthers part, Bice is in Ohio, as always. And we have a guest today that we'll introduce here momentarily. But first, I'm going to have a little chat with my buddy, Sean. You doing okay back there? No weather reports. I keep getting crap about the weather reports.
Not going to say a word about it. Nope, not going to say a word, although it will be hopefully sunny and no rain when we get to Daytona in within now less than 60 days. So looking forward.
I think it's like 54, 55, 56 days, somewhere around there. So it'll, things go quickly from here on out. And before you know it, we'll be down there. But I think based on the fact that we got rain last year, I think we're going to be free and clear this year.
Yeah, I mean, we paid our dues, so we should definitely get better weather because they don't get rain that often for that week. But, you know, you always remember it. So, Paul, hey, a couple things. First of all, I mean, I want to point out we put some stuff up on social media, but I think you and I were both surprised at this little enterprise that we have here and the fact that we're in the top 10% of all Buzzsprout podcasts in 69 countries. So it's crazy. I love it. I mean, people are into it, I guess.
I couldn't name 69 countries. Could you?
No, that's a lot. I only knew Canada was there, and I was happy about that. So
yeah, no, I was happy to see that the little thing that they put out, and I think we're doing okay. It's kind of creeps up on you, you know. But people, you know, I don't think we have this massive audience. We're not Joe Rogan by any means, but I mean, when you think about it, we're only talking about motorcycle racing, and most of it's MotoAmerica, so it's good. I'd say it's obviously a lot of people that are listening are obviously MotoAmerica fans, and that's really what we worry about. So,
yeah. So, you know, you're right. I mean, we usually do talk about motorcycle racing exclusively, but I have to digress a little bit because I need to tell a story at the beginning of this podcast, if you will allow me the latitude to do that.
Go for it.
Okay. So it actually relates to the guest that we're having on, and I won't say anything, although obviously when people listen to this, they know who the guest is. But there was a movie that came out in 1975, long before this guest was around. And I want to, Paul, I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever seen Dog Day Afternoon?
No.
Okay. So that's
Al Pacino?
Yes.
Maybe I did.
You probably have seen parts of it, but I think you may know about what I'm going to talk about in this. So he did this movie in 75, shortly after The Godfather. And he had one of his favorite actors that he worked with, the guy who plays Fredo, John Cazale, was his partner in this. And the movie is a true story about something that happened in Brooklyn in 1972. It was a botched bank robbery. And it was one of these deals where the guy had the best, not the best, he didn't have the best intentions, but he had a pretty simple plan for how he was going to get this money. And he had a pretty ulterior motive for what he wanted to do with the money, which is talked about in the movie, but it got botched. And there's one part, so it advances into this situation where a lot of the cops come, the FBI comes, they're all staked out outside. He has to take the tellers and the bank manager hostage. And it's actually kind of a comedy. It's sort of funny about how it just kind of grows and grows into this thing. But there's a scene where he comes outside to talk to the police chief, who was played by Charles Durning, if anybody remembers that actor. He's pretty well-known character actor. And he brings out one of the tellers with him as kind of a shield, but he really didn't have her that way. So he was out there standing there, and the police chief was trying to impress upon him that he really had no chance. And he was pointing up at the buildings and pointing behind him. And you could see there were hundreds of, SWAT officers and police officers with guns pointed at him. And at one point, he kept telling the guy to tell them to kind of get back with their guns and get back. And every time he would yell, the police chief would yell at these guys to get back. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, because again, this was 1972, he started yelling this word, and it had to do with something that happened in 1971, the year before, that was well known in this country. He started repeating, and this may be something you remember, he started yelling, Attica, Attica.
Yeah.
the crowd picked up on it and they were going crazy. And it was all about the fact that Attica prison, they had this riot, and that was botched too. And it ended up that a bunch of prisoners lost their lives in it and everything. And there were some police officers as well. So it was sort of known as a situation with that prison. And the reason I bring that up, because our guest waiting in the wings, whenever I hear his name, I just always go in my head, Attica. And I think our guest will explain, or at least he probably understands. I'm sure he understands why I think that. But when you introduce him, Paul, and we'll bring him in and ask him if that means anything to him. So anyway, that's my story to start today.
All right. Well, our guest today is James Rispoli. It's funny, you know, a lot of people that are James go by Jim.
Right.
For some reason, he could never be Jim.
No, never.
He's not a Jim. He's 100% James. But anyway, that's besides the fact. Our guest today is James Rispoli. Obviously, he raced Mission King of the Baggers with us this year. He also did some Twins Cup. He finished 6th in the 2022 Mission King of the Baggers Championship with 2 podiums, and he did so on a Vance Hines Harley-Davidson. He also had 2 podiums in a very limited Twins Cup series. The series wasn't limited, but his participation in it was limited. He's a 2-time Supersport champion in road racing in 2011 and 2012. And that's actually when I got to know him, as he came onto the scene as a kid, because back then Supersport was sort of a feeder series at that point, and it was designed more for, young sort of beginners, although they're at a higher level than Junior Cup is now, for example. He's done some BSB in both Supersport and Superbike. He did Moto 2, I remember, at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 2013 in a one-off race. And then he keeps going back and forth to flat track. And the last title I believe he had is 2020 Production Twins champion for the AFT series. So this guy's done a lot. It's surprising when I start to look back and see what somebody's done. You come across somebody like James, and I'm like, holy crap, that kid's been busy. And he seems to me like he's still a kid, and obviously he's not, because if you look at all those years he's been doing things, it adds up to quite a bit. So James, welcome to the show. I know you're out in Chuckwalla, I guess for the weekend, and you're doing some Jason Prigmore instructing out there. So welcome to the show, and how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you guys for having me. Yeah, we're out here at Chuckwalla doing some one-on-ones with JP, and we're doing like his new 43 Fridays. So out here in the middle of it, but I'm glad to be on. And like you said, Paul, yeah, it's been quite a ride. When I look back after you're just listing off some of that stuff, I'm like, man, I guess I am getting a little bit older here. And there must be, when I raced some Twins Cups last year, there was some young kids, and I'm like, man, how old are you? I'm like, dang, like I can't get beat by you, man. Like you're too young. But it's good though. It's good to see the crop of kids, and to see like the series and everything coming from Europe back to America, and how much it's changed.
Yeah, I mean, you've probably noticed, you've been in and out with MotoAmerica since we got rolling, at least on some level. It's gotten quite a bit different, right? I mean, I don't want to pat our own backs, but I think we've made some huge improvements, and the series is pretty strong at this point. And obviously Baggers, which we'll get into shortly, has helped that.
Yeah, definitely. When I left in 2013, it was like I was probably in the worst time frame. My crop of kids was just missed the heyday of the payday, where all the factory seats kind of were gone, and it was the start of outside sponsorship and the big push on contingency. And we did pretty well, myself and like Corey Alexander and whatnot, that crop. But I went overseas, and then when I came back, it was really cool to see the big social media presence, the paddock, the life. When I left, it was starting to dwindle in fans, and now to see like Road America, Road Atlanta have such a big fan base, that's really, really cool. I mean, I feel like the last time I saw a really big fan base was like somewhere like Mid-Ohio, so no, it's been really, really good. It's good to come back. I've always wanted to come back and, get my feet wet. A little bit different to be on the motorcycle I am versus being on a bike that maybe I have, like a 600 or a super bike. But, nonetheless, I'm happy to be back in the series and continue racing.
Yeah, I mean, your pathway has been different, James, up through. But one of the things I remember, there's a distinction about you with regard to Supersport is I'm pretty sure you're the only one that ever won a Supersport East and a Supersport West championship back to back. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. We chose to stay down and then move up in 2013. So yeah, I'm pretty sure nobody was able to do that again. I think the East West thing went away shortly after though.
Yeah, you found a niche there and made it happen. So, but anyway, hey, before I go too far, have you ever chanted Attica, Attica? And do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So like I lived in Attica for 5 years. So I know exactly what you're talking about. The prison pretty much was, you don't really go by it, but yeah, it's a max prison and they pretty much employ a lot of the town.
Yeah. Were you born in Attica? I thought that's where you started out. Am I wrong?
Yeah, so I grew up born and raised in Londonderry, New Hampshire, and then moved to New York and then Florida, Europe, Florida. So it's kind of my movements.
Okay, I have it backwards, but Paul, I have to digress again for a minute. I told James this one time at Mid Ohio, and I don't think he remembers. I actually thought you moved to Londonderry afterwards, but so you are originally from New Hampshire, unlike me, who was born in New York and moved to New Hampshire. But my wife was the 7th grade language arts teacher at Londonderry. I'm pretty sure when you went to school there, because I think Gene Connolly was the president. This was a while ago, but do you remember who your 7th grade language arts teacher was? That's a long time.
Yeah, I don't honestly. that would be crazy though. I mean,
damn, Sean's bringing it all together.
Dude, it's full circle.
Well, it's funny because I'm sure you were you living in Londonderry, New Hampshire at the same time that Jason Ruth here? I mean, I don't know if he still lives there, but he did, from Ducati.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Because I used to ride YSRs. He let me ride his YSR to start, and that's kind of how I started dabbling in a little bit of asphalt, is through him. He had all the a collection of 20 of them or something, all pristine. And we used to go to this little go-kart track, and all these adults at the time, I was a kid, and we used to just go race. And it was quite funny. And he let us borrow one, and then we ended up getting one after that. But yeah, that's how I met Jason. And I don't know where he lives now, but
yeah, I don't either. I'm not sure. I think he might still live there, but I'm not sure. However, he does. Well, my wife does remember having him. So I'm not sure that she ever had you, but Jason's a little younger than you, isn't he? A little bit?
No.
Oh, okay.
Who? No, wait.
Jason,
maybe we're. No,
is he older?
He's older than I. Yeah, older than I am.
Oh, that's what I meant. Sorry. I meant older because
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, sorry about that. Maybe by the time you went to Londonderry, it might have been when we had moved out. But anyway, I'll get past that. I just always thought that was cool that and that's how I had it backwards. The other thing, I know that you started out flat tracking, and that's why I thought you were originally from Attica, because I thought that's why you flat tracked where obviously Jason DeSalvo and a lot of the guys from Central New York have done a lot there and still do. So did you learn to flat track when you're in New Hampshire, or did you pick it up when you moved to New York?
Yeah, so it was in New Hampshire. I pretty much grew up. I was kind of a late bloomer, to be honest. I rode a 50 until I was 10 years old. I had a JR, a Lem, a Z50, a Polini. I had all the 50cc bikes. And then I moved up to 65, and this was all in dirt track gear. And I was late because I went kind of supermoto, and not actually jumping supermoto. I just went and rode my supermoto at Beaver Run before it was pit race, things of that nature. And
wow.
Yeah, so in the Weir series with Scott Rosie and stuff like that, he let me use his SV650, and I was kind of borrowing stuff at the time before, and I was going up the dirt track ranks, and it was always the path of the Nicky Hayden path where you would switch and go road racing. But I was late. It was 17, 18 before I got on a 600 and started my road race career. So really started it. I never did 125s. I remember I was horrible on a 125 GP. When I did the Spain, the Rookies Cup deal, I got smoked at the Valencia tryout, the USGPRU, I believe, and I got smoked there. I was already moving into 4 strokes and stuff like that So the 125s were really, really hard. When I got on a 600, I gelled like crazy with it. It was a bigger bike. You could use the power and stuff like that. And then I started doing quite well on the Weir side. And then I transitioned then to go road racing and try to chase a little bit. Wouldn't say money at the time, but there's more opportunity.
Did you ever do any racing up at Loudon or take the Penguin School or anything like that?
So yeah, I grew up there, but I didn't do a ton of riding there. We were always traveling outside. We noticed that like it was like a decision my dad made, but he was always a believer of traveling and going to race people that you're not your local home. And to be honest, like I never really did a lot of laps at Loudon. It's funny because Loudon has a huge race coming up now, and I'm getting multiple texts from tons of people because it still says Londonderry, New Hampshire on one of my sheets somewhere, like in Dirt Track or something. So everyone's like, "Are you coming hometown?" And I'm like, "Dude, I haven't rode there. Like, I want to get smoked. Like Narbone's the legend there now. Like, I'm not gonna do anything." Like,
Great.
All right, James, I think let's talk about before we get started and go backwards or go forwards, whatever we decide to do.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, you don't have a new deal, but you have a new deal with next year's Mission King of the Baggers Championship. Why don't you tell us exactly what your plan is for 2023?
Yeah, so it's probably definitely one of the worst kept secrets, but I'm going to ride for Vance Hines again next year in the Mission King of the Baggers. Last year, I was a late sign for them, and it was part of one of my classes that I rode. And then we did really well last year. So that's what we're doing next year is just doing that full focus, trying to win the championship. And yeah, I mean, like the way this class is developing, like there's some big hitters, and I hear the rumors are there's some more guys coming in, and I expect the class to get even faster.
Now, everybody we talk to on the show, off the show, that rides baggers, races baggers, just raves about how fun the racing is, how much better the bikes are than what people would think they are. And you're in agreement with all that, right?
Yeah. So like when I first heard about the bagger deal and saw it at Laguna, I was like, I don't know, man, this thing's kind of lame. I'm not into it. And then to see the development happen pretty quick, and then see Kyle's like times, and then to be able to ride one, I was like, whoa, I was clearly one of the guys that was like, yeah, I'm not about this. But I rode the bike and I was like, okay, this is pretty fun. And the other thing is like everybody in the class from last year was like a top doer. They're old boys like Kyle, Travis, Bobby, Tyler. Like they're old guys. They've all done some stuff. So like nobody's sketchy. Like there's no like whippersnappers in there trying to, cut you up. Everybody's pretty seasoned. So like the racing was hard, like super hard, but like so good. And super clean, but you just expected, like, you just know what you're getting. So I think that helped a lot with the series. And, yeah, I mean, I think if we can keep tightening it up, it's just going to get more racy, and what we're doing on these bikes and the technology that's going into them is insane. And I mean, realistically, compared to motocross, this is like really a direct to consumer kind of deal. So it's pretty cool to see two big V-twin manufacturers going head to head.
And I think I know it's important to MotoAmerica to keep the parity, in the class. And I think they also realize that like the Vance and Hines Harley is a little bit of a step down than the factory Harley, but that's going to change. You're going to have more parts available, et cetera, et cetera. You obviously noticed that their bikes were just, a little bit better than what you had. And is that frustrating? And do you see that getting better?
Yeah, 100%. It's super frustrating going to the race every weekend knowing you really don't have a shot at winning. Sucks. But, you got to pay your dues somewhere. We worked so hard last year. Everybody could see it. Last year, the factory Indian was the fastest bike on the track. Then factory Harley decided to step up, and they got their stuff sorted where they became really, really competitive on the straights. And we just didn't have that jump. And it was super clear towards the end of the year where we were just losing on pure horsepower. But the good thing is we developed our chassis, and like you said, the rules are changing a little bit. There's going to be some more parity, and it's got to be. We can't have just 4 guys. We need to have 6 guys or whatever on competitive bikes there. And we need to have non-factory bikes be able to at least have a shot at winning, right? Because then what's the point, right? there's no point. So I think that's going to change. I think, I know Vance and Hines has been working their butts off. I know that everybody in the series knows it can't be just a 2-horse race between Factory Indy and Factory Harley. We need some independent teams, and the level of talent can do the job. So I think some more supplies is getting sent around, and I expect it to be closer, but they're not factory for a reason, so I know they're working as well. So it's going to be one of those deals where I think Daytona is going to be another absolute crapshoot. And then as the season rolls on and we've got more races this year, developments are going to go in certain ways, and we'll just have to keep figuring out. It's a class so new that there's so much development going on that every weekend you look like somebody's brought something to try. So it's kind of crazy.
One of the things really cool about Vance and Hines, and we had Terry on maybe last year or the year before, I don't remember, but we got to talk to him a lot about the legacy that he has and that Vance and Hines has in road racing, which, as years have gone by, people maybe don't realize it as much, but they won a Superbike championship, and they've done a good job, obviously, with V twin development over the years. So unlike a little bit with Harley, where Kyle and Travis go to the factory and basically say, make us this. And sometimes, if it proves to be good, they might offer it as a part, aftermarket part through their Screaming Eagle catalog or whatever. Has any of that gone on with Vance and Hines with regard to things you have developed, whether it's the pipe or anything else? That is Vance and Hines offering anything that's an offshoot of what you've kind of proven or tested on the track in King of the Baggers?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Vance and Hines is a very, very capable company, and they've got a ton of capabilities that they can do. It's really just comes down to, right, I mean, if Factory Harley are going to do the work and they're still the top dog, like, why wouldn't we try to look and copy? That's how you get there the quickest. Now, when we do like certain things, ergonomics and, foot, feet, positions and different things, like Vance and Hines is fully capable of doing that. And there is definitely stuff that when we look at, power related or things of that nature, I mean, they're a powerhouse. So of course they are able to fine tune those things, and they're doing that. But I think it's super hard to, you're going against a factory that's all they do, right? And Vance and Hines is stepping into it, and even though they have the capabilities, it's time, right? They're still running a full-time company. And it's one of those things that's super tough. So yeah, in short, they definitely do. I can request whatever I want. Does it get done as quick? When you're going against a factory and that's all they focus on, it's pretty tough to be on the same timeline. But these guys, all I can say is these guys are super committed. They want to win. They won the championship with Jesse Janis last year, and I think they want to continue that success. I think they've got their big bug. It's been a while since they won a championship, and I don't think they want to not be on the podium anymore. So like, I'm pretty sure all the guys are like, hey, we got to keep this up. We got to grind. And, for myself, I'm training like I was when in Supersport in British, this is the Baggers hasn't turned into, hey, let's drink a beer and this, that, and the other and have some fun. It's like an actual real series with a lot of money on the line, with a lot of people spending a shitload of money. So like, you've got to take it serious.
Yeah, James. So for your bike, with your, I'm just going to say it, with your size, on a bike like that, I mean, the bike is huge. So how are the ergonomics of your bike? And I mean, you're talking about training, but muscling it around the turns, or just, starting off. I mean, you probably can't, can only keep one foot down, right? When you start off.
Yeah, man, I need a step stool to get on the thing. It's like, it literally, the worst time on the bagger is trying to leave the pit. Like at Laguna, when there's so many fans there, I'm like, once I roll, if you're in the way, sorry, you're a hazard. I'm running you over, because I cannot stop. Like when Travis lifted that thing after he crashed in New Jersey, like he must have pulled some freaking energy from his ancestors, because those things are heavy in the wet. Like there's no chance I'm lifting that thing up. And yeah, they're super tall and they keep getting taller. It's difficult, like on the starting line, swapping feet and things of that nature. But once you're riding, surprisingly, they're like so nimble. I tell this to everybody. You don't notice the weight at all until you run off the track. If you run off the track, you've got 630 pounds. and it's impossible to really do anything with it. So if you go off the track, it's kind of ride it out, because there's a lot of weight there. But when you're on it, when you're on the asphalt, they're super nimble. You can brake so deep on these things. Like, it's insane. And I tell this to everybody as well, is like, you can just ride over the limit, so far over the limit. It's crazy. And it's like, they just like ride themselves out. It's pretty wild. And the more you ride them, the more you push it. And it's like, I don't think we've seen a limit anywhere we've gone yet.
Well, I'm glad you pointed out that thing with Travis, because I'll tell you something that's incredible. That we said the same thing. It was in the rain, and how he even had the footing to be able to lever that thing off the ground. But yeah, I think maybe he invoked every bit of his Harley-Davidson heritage with his grandfather's dealership in Macedon, New York, to get that to happen. But he managed to do it. When you're on the bike, and being that you've done supermoto and you've flat tracked for a lot, the bike, does the bike get loose in the rear end? I mean, can you steer it at all like a flat tracker, or is it just, it goes where it goes?
No, definitely. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was, able to be really quick on the Vance Hines bike last year without having quite the, the full factory package, is I was super loose on it. Now, normally you don't want to be as loose as that. It's like, the looser you are, you're putting more risk in. But, it's the way I pretty much had to ride the bike. I had to ride it so much because I'm making so much down up on the straightaways and the braking zones, and having to get on the gas a little earlier. So it's causing such a big transfer of weight from front to rear all the time, that it's causing this big, slide in the rear, backing it in, sliding it on the way out. Like, it's moving all the time, and it's exciting. So for me, it's like, they move around a lot, they wiggle a lot, but once you get past that, they're pretty good. And you can definitely steer with the rear. Like, it's certain tracks, like Laguna last year was kind of crazy. Like, everybody that I talked to was like, had no grip. Like, we had like one lap of grip, and even though the races are so short, it was like, we're all just like so sideways everywhere. And it just goes like track to track. And I think like even Dunlop and stuff like that, like, the tires aren't technically made for 630 pounds, and the amount of force going through them, and how much tire pressure or how much air they, raises in with the rear tire, getting so hot so quick with so much load. I mean, I think everybody's learning, and it's, it's just one of those things, like, who's willing to just be over the limit for that little bit longer, and I can tell you right now, it's a blast to ride. And it's, every time I get off, I'm like, I tell Terry this every time, like, dude, there's no way I can go any faster. And then I go out and I'm like, hey, dude, next time I go out, I come in and he's like, that was a good session. I'm like, dude, seriously, this time there's no freaking way I can go any faster. I'm on the absolute limit. Like, it's insane. You just keep getting faster. It's crazy.
Well, before we got started on the show, we talked a little bit about Twins Cup as well. And you told us that you wouldn't be doing any of that this year. And that was a time when you were racing with some whippersnappers, by the way. What does this mean? Is there any dirt track for this year? Or are you done with that as well?
Unfortunately, I'm not going to be doing any dirt track this year either. The deal that was presented to me is pretty good, and we want to focus on trying to win the championship. And, the biggest goal is we want to have Harley lockout every weekend. We want Harleys to be, if it can't be me, it needs to be another Harley. If it can't be a factory, it needs to be me. So, that's the whole goal this year. Everybody's stepping up. I think everybody's pretty much going, in our camp at least, like, it's a Harley at all costs kind of deal.
So you're a factory Vance Hines Harley-Davidson rider, and on the weekends you might do some open houses every once in a while because you're also a real estate agent.
Dude, I'm just hawking houses, bro. That's what I'm doing right now. Just stay afloat, So, I mean, those are your words, factory Vance Hines, whatever. So I ride Vance Hines. I think there's some Harley support. They've got such a good relationship, and yeah, we'll try to sell some houses. So if you're in Florida, hit the big dog up.
How's the and where in Florida are you?
Yeah, so I'm in Volusia County, which is like right in between Daytona to Orlando is kind of where I house, but I do a lot of my business near the beach. Like, of course, it's, Port Orange, Daytona, New Smyrna, all those areas.
Now, are you? I'm always interested in real estate for obvious reasons, but
Mm.
Are you part of a group or are you on your own?
So I'm a part of a group because my father, Jen and my father are in, they're in real estate in
Oh, I
Fort
didn't know
Myers.
that. That's
So
cool.
yeah. So I'm a part of their broker, Remax Anchor, but I'm in 3 hours from them on the east side. So I'm technically by myself, starting by myself, but I've got like, all their experience. They've been in the business for, I think, 13 years. They do quite a bit of business. So like I've got a good backing, but it's like hustling for sponsorship, like I don't have a broker in my area to go, hey, can I do some open houses here, that, and the other. So it's definitely a lot tougher, but I'm a little different breed anyways. So I'm attacking it a little different. A lot of my clients are coming from racing, like that want some Airbnbs and things of that nature and some investors. And then, it's just growing as it would normally. And to do it part-time, doing pretty well, but I want to step it up a little bit more. And as my career starts to wind down a little bit, I want to ramp that up so I'm not left, like a lot of racers are left with nothing.
Right. And that referral list, I mean, the referrals, I think, is key.
Huge. It's huge. And, Florida's so hot right now. It's pretty crazy. So, yeah, I hope it works out, and it's just something that's dabbling there. But at the moment, like I've always told myself, if I'm competitive in racing, if I'm still at the front, no matter what, if we could be racing scooters, like I don't care what it is, but if I'm competitive, like I want to still race. If I'm not competitive, the day I go, you know what, this young whippersnapper is hanging it out and I don't want to do it, then it's probably I got to hang the boots up. Like if I don't want to hang it out anymore, there's probably no point in me racing.
Right.
James, I don't know. I'm not sure how many people know this. There's been some time that's passed and you were away from our series for a little bit and away from even this country for a while. So I want to ask you, why do you run the number 43?
Yeah. So I was always 71 in dirt track. And then I met JP through the Jordan guys at Mid Ohio. And I pretty much went to every star school. And then that year going into Supersport, I was like, hey, can I run the 43? 4+3 is 7, 4 - 3 is 1. It kind of ties back in. And that's kind of how we started it. And then I've only won my championships with the number 43. Like anytime I've ever run 71, I've had a pretty dismal year. So I don't know, you call it lucky, superstition, whatever you want to do, but it's been a really good number. I've got a lot of loyalty to Jay because without him and what they did for me in Star School, I was a 7th place guy. And yeah, I had a lot of hard work and a lot of, work ethic, but without the coaching and the access to being able to go to his schools, I think I did like 27 schools the year from 2010 to 2011. And then I went out and just won a championship. And I think it was pretty unexpected. And then to back it up and destroy him in 2012, I think again, it was like unexpected. So, without that whole thing, I kind of just have a lot of loyalty to it.
Yeah.
And now just taking over the 43. So
taking it over. Yeah, it's funny. I actually didn't know. I knew it was because of Jason Pridmore for sure. Because I remember in the early days, you guys would talk a lot and sit together and everything. But I didn't realize you went to so many schools. So my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You've learned a lot from that guy then.
Yeah. I mean, it's like to a point you would say it's like, I'm one of the OGs. When we instruct, I'm kind of like Corey, myself, like we've brought up through the crop with Jay. And it's really good. He taught me how to teach and how to understand what I'm doing on the bike. And that's just helped me a lot when I went overseas, right? When I was over there in BSB, like I didn't have anybody. And it was really difficult. My first year there, showing up at these tracks that are just wild. Like if anybody goes to BSB, I think it's like a dream killer for any guy that's in the world championship. I mean, it is such a unique niche series where it's like the tracks are insanely hard. Like it took me 4 years to figure out Olton Park. There's just so many bumps, so much undulation. It's like you can't set your bike up because there's so much like bumps and just like the suspension, you can only set it up for so many certain spots. And it's like, it was really, really difficult. And I would say like, I almost didn't make it the first year, and it was pretty crazy, but all the experience I had helped me fight through that and to be able to stay there for 5 years. I think a lot of people go over there and anybody that goes to Europe, even though I was in England of all places, they spoke English, and the food was relatively the same. It's like, man, I was on a different side of the world. Nobody's up. You got no friends, this, that, and the other. And it's really difficult. It's really mentally taxing to try to make it in a different country.
One of the things though about being over there, James, I mean, you say, no friends, and I know, and I certainly could see that you had a lot of fans over there. I mean, everybody really kind of latched onto you and understood your character, the type of person you are, and how you would celebrate on the podium. The British fans really took to you, didn't they?
Oh yeah, man. It was, and a lot of that was through Keith Flint. I wouldn't really have the opportunity without Keith, and I got that kind of on the final hour when the Jordan thing collapsed. And it was crazy. Like, as soon as Keith pretty much took me in, it was like the UK fans and treated me like family. Because he's such a superstar, was a superstar over there, and without that, I don't know if I would have made it with the fans. But the podiums helped a ton. Once I got on the podium, was able to get in front of the camera, he taught me a lot how to be a showman and to talk through the camera to the fans. And that was one thing he was really able to teach me, as he was being a musical artist and connecting with fans. That was something I was really able to take from that. And it was crazy. I remember my second year in TGC, I had like a stand full of foam fingers at Brands Hatch, and like I had full merch stands. Like, for whatever reason, it's just a different world over there. Like, you go into a pub and people got Tycho or Paul Bird stuff, or the other teams like jackets on. And over here you just don't get that. It's just a different culture. So it was kind of crazy to take to them and to have them like accept me as an American. But I think I'm a little bit more wild on the podiums and things of that nature, and maybe a little bit more charismatic is the right word. And I think that helped a lot.
Yeah, it definitely did. Do you think of yourself as a flat track racer who does road racing, or a road racer who did flat track, or how would you define yourself if you had to?
It's funny you asked that, because I would say 3 years ago, definitely I was a road racer that had some flat track. But now, like, that I've gone back and done some dirt track and won a championship pretty late in my career. The one thing I'll say is you can't really take road racing so much, maybe now in dirt track, but you couldn't really take a lot of road racing skills into dirt track 10 years ago. But now with electronics and things, I think that helped me so much win my championship over there. So I think they go hand in hand, but I still would favor me on the road race side. I think I got spoiled being a road racer. I don't really like getting dirty. Like, going to Lima, getting smoked, every piece of leather and bike is roached. I love the racing and I love riding it, but like, if I could just throw all that stuff away, that'd be great. And I think I'm spoiled as a road racer, and I like champagne versus beer. So I would say I'm a road race guy.
That's not the first person we've heard say that. I mean, we've had a couple of people that have done, motocross, and they were saying, I just don't like getting dirty as much. I like road racing because, it's a cleaner sport. And like you said, so that's interesting to hear you say that. And I've always thought of you, I think, as a road racer, just because even though I know you did it when you were younger, you started out road racing pretty young too, with that Supersport East and West. And and then of course, when you're over in Europe. So when you came back, it didn't surprise me that you did flat track, but for sure, I hope that you would eventually move back into road racing. Why did you go into flat track for a amount of time? You had an opportunity?
Actually, I didn't. I had no opportunities. And that was the crazy thing. It was like on the final hour in 2018, I got fourth in the championship in Supersport, had 6 or 7 podiums there. And 2019, I was going to ride for the same team. Some stuff went south, as it does, with sponsorship dollars, and especially not being native to the country. I kind of got left a little bit, and over there, everything gets signed so early. So I came back here and I had nothing, man. I was trying to fight for that M4 deal. Bobby got it, and a couple other deals, and I really didn't have anything. And I was outside of the US for so long, it was really tough to find something. Crazy enough, like my buddy Corey Alexander at the same time didn't really have much, and he was kind of restarting his program. And we decided Hudson Valley and Corey, we pretty much put together like a small Kawasaki deal. They let lent me a motorcycle. For the year, we built it. My buddy from the movies, Kieran Clark, pretty much bought the motorcycle for me and all the parts. And we went and tried to do some dirt track races, and I got smoked early on. And finally was able to get that in the middle of the season. There was a Harley deal up for grabs, and the Harley wasn't very good at the moment. And I just took it, and it kind of just worked out. I used the sport changed, and I could use a lot of the electronic stuff that I learned in road racing, was able to make that motorcycle a lot better, and just all about timing. I went to a test with Vance Hines, rode all their bikes, and was helping them with electronics, and then kind of just got to know those guys. And then the following year, George Latus, crazy enough, full circle, in 2013, I had an offer from George, and then I went with the Jordan offer instead. And kind of 10 years later, I signed for George, and we won a championship. So it's kind of crazy how it all happened. And it really was just timing and opportunity, with not really having the lack of, opportunities in road racing. And I always told myself I wanted to get back into it. And the bagger thing really kind of helped me just dip my toe back in and get in the paddock again, and I feel like once I was in the paddock, people started to, oh yeah, Rispoli, yeah, it's been a while, and then saw me ride again and hanging it out, and I'm exciting and whatnot. And I think it just spurred a little bit, jogged some memory of some of the old guys that were in the paddock. And, there's so many new faces that I don't even know. So it's been a full turn of events, but I'm just happy to be back road racing, happy to be in America. And, hopefully the bagger thing can lead into something. Hopefully the baggers race for another 10 years. If not, I can jump on another motorcycle in the future and continue and, maybe win another Supersport championship or something.
Sean, James gave Pridmore some credit for his success, and rightfully so. That, I think Jason kind of knows a little bit about the sport, but I think if he thought back hard enough, he'd probably realize that a lot of his learning came from spending 4 days with me at the Colin Edwards boot camp in Texas.
Me, you, and Bradley.
Yeah. So it was funny because it was me, James, and Bradley Smith, and we just had the best time. I mean, other than like the most severe case of monkey butt I've ever had in my life from riding a motorcycle. It's probably more than I've ridden a motorcycle combined in my whole life. But I think it was at least 3 days. It was probably 4. And by the end of the day, you're just so freaking sore and over it. But we really had a good time, and all it was is racing around for all those days on little mini bikes. And it's amazing how good it is for your riding and how much fun it is.
Yeah, I mean, that was a blast, right, Chad? I think it was awesome, and we
oh yeah,
we had such a good time.
So on the last night, we went out and were overserved at some honky tonk bar in Texas or whatever, and I had a little moment where I turned into Chad Reed, and I had my ears tucked in my hat, and I was doing my Australian Chad Reed impersonation, and the name kind of stuck. Every time James sees me, he calls me Chad Reed.
Oh man, yeah. So, anyways, it's been a ride. When I look back on my career, I go, holy crap! There's been a ton of stuff that I've done, and I've rode a lot of motorcycles. So, my goal is to continue as long as I'm competitive to stay riding. And I think the way the series is and the way everything is, it's probably going to prolong my career for some time. So
yeah, I mean, when you think about it, baggers came along at a perfect time for you.
Dude, perfect. And I, literally after winning the championship with Harley and then riding for Harley, having 1 day off and then being stuck like kind of right where the Harleys came in, it was like perfect timing for me. And I think that they, even with having the flat track thing, the way that you ride those bikes, like you can get so loose on them. And I just think you're right. It's just been a perfect thing for me to kind of transition back into road racing.
James, we're going to wrap up here, but I did want to, Paul knows I do this a fair amount with the riders' parents, but I want to give a shout out to your dad, Phil. I was pretty impressed when I saw him at Brainerd when you came in the medical center, and I had a chance to talk to him, and I was surprised. I hadn't seen him for years, and I was surprised he even remembered who I was. So he's really good about that stuff. But one of the things I remember, and this is something I wanted to ask you too, is that I think Brainerd is when you had hurt your wrist. Is your wrist good to go now?
Yeah, actually, two of my fingers I road rashed off, like the skin of them, but they're all good now. Everything's fine. I'm 100% healthy. But,
it was your fingers, not your wrist. Okay.
Yeah.
And it happened at Brainerd, right? I remember you were. It was gnarly. Yeah.
Yeah. Turn one, I high-sided on the twin. Crazy enough. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I'm 100% healthy, and going to your point, yeah, Factory Phil's doing well. He's lost a lot of weight. He's been on the grind hard.
Yeah, he looks great. He looks fantastic.
Yeah,
I was really impressed when I saw him. So he's a good guy.
Yeah, sure. He's done a lot. I mean, marketing wise, I wouldn't be where I'm at without him. You know, like back in the day when social media wasn't really a thing, and it was flat track forums or press releases. He was the king of the press release. You could still type my name into Google, and you got 200 pages of Rispoli press releases from Factory Phil. So I don't think I would have near the brand without him.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So shout out to him. So, all right. So we're going to, it seems like we talked to a fair number of riders who are at Chuckwalla, and that's your situation. So we know you're itching to get back out on the track. So we'll let you do that. But James, thank you for being on with us. I mean, it's high time we had you on. So it's good that we got you on so you can talk about your program this year. We're going to enjoy watching you with the extra rounds and races this year, being on the track more in Mission King of the Baggers on that Vance Hines Harley-Davidson. So it's going to be fun to watch, and you're a fan favorite, so we know the fans will enjoy it too. But yeah, thanks again for being on with us.
Yeah, no problem. And I got to do a little shameless shout out. Me and my buddy Corey Alexander, we're starting a podcast ourselves, so look out for Pipe Dreams coming out. We're going to be competitors now. No, it's good though. I think like all different podcasts and things that can all help each other, and I think your guys' podcast is really, really good. I listen to it all the time, and I think the sport, it's just helped it bubble out. And I think, the more that people talk about it, like seeing it on Joe Rogan was so cool. And I think that the sport is just bubbling out, like I said. So thank you guys so much for having me on. It's been awesome. And I can't wait to see you guys at the first round.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So I'm just going to close out by mentioning to everybody, I had done a story earlier this week about the need for corner marshals at our races, and James can back up the fact that corner workers and corner marshals are so important to the sport, right, James?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the more we can have is be crucial. So, and qualified corner workers, it's crucial. When I crashed at Brainerd, it's good to have some people around at least to just help, and crucial for the sport.
Yeah, and we can never have enough, as David Hawley, our chief marshal, says. So if you go to MotoAmerica Volunteers on Facebook, there is information there and a link to go to Motorsports Reg, where you can sign up to be part of it. And anybody from people with no experience to people with experience. Once you do a weekend, you do get experience, but they put you where you're needed. And as I said, there are never enough, and every rider loves it. And I always say it's the best seat in the house, and the riders appreciate you guys and give you the thumbs up. So be a part of it, especially starting at Daytona, because that won't be long. And we'll need people for that as well as our other rounds. So again, James, thanks for being on, and thanks everybody for listening to this episode. See you.
Thanks,
Paul.
James.
See you guys. Thank you. Cheers.